All right, there you go. I don't know what I would do without you guys always reminding me to record. So back to the skull. This is your neurocranium, the bones that surround your head, and this is your visceral cranium, the bones that surround your face. And a lot of times we hold a lot of tension, kind of in this whole area, really. But the bones of the face can kind of climb under the bones of the skull a little bit when we hold a lot of tension. And I think yoga has this beautiful it's fitting that tomorrow's Halloween, right? I have a skull sitting here. But I think what I've experienced kind of exploring a lot of this in my own body through training with craniosacral therapy as well as just in my yoga practice is that allowing your face to kind of fall down like in dog pose, getting the release of letting all those bones that are in your face to fall toward the floor is a really important way of sensing your skull. And in craniosacral it's called the avenues of expression. The ways we express ourselves in the world have so much to do with the musculoskeletal system in our face, the way we talk, the way we smile, the way we chew, the way we laugh and shock and sadness and all the expressions of our emotions land in our face. I mean, have you ever had an emotion that hasn't translated to a facial expression of some kind? I mean, we might mask it, like we might, hold ourselves away from that expression. But if we are free to express, the avenues of expression of our emotional states often flow through our face, all sorts of other places in our body too. But because of all that, we tend to hold a lot of tension in our face. We hold a lot of tension in our forehead and in our jaw and around our eyes. And of course, I feel like I'm always cueing that, especially in Shavasana, to relax these places of your body. And I don't know about you, but when anyone or myself tells me to cue relaxation in my face, there's something that relaxes. Like I'm not already relaxed. There's usually a release that happens when you pay attention and consciously let go. And that's under normal circumstances, right? When you don't have anything specifically going on in that part of your body. So a cue that I've been starting to work with is when you're in dog pose, is to let that visceral cranium kind of fall away from the neurocranium, to kind of like get that sense that these two parts of you can kind of not pull away from each other, but fall, like float away from each other a little bit to help you find some deeper rest and relaxation. And if it can translate, I think we all know this feeling that when one part of your body relaxes, there's a ripple effect that can happen. We can take that and run with it and let the rest of our body kind of follow. And especially in current times, I feel like at any time I could say in current times, there's a lot of stress, but particularly now with the election coming and so much happening across the world that there's just a lot of ways that we're all holding a lot. And so this is just yet another way to kind of explore a sense of release within you, is to notice throughout the day what's happening in your skull, the base of your skull, all around your skull, in your face, that you can have a consciousness of melting and letting go of. And just try to notice. So this is just your yoga homework. We're not going to like focus a lot on this in class, but I just wanted to bring it up because it's something that I'm working with. And you might notice that you start to pay attention, that you do have a lot of tension and some things can really soften. Um, yeah, I could say more, but that's all I'm going to say for now. So when I say something about allowing your visceral cranium to fall away from your neurocranium, that's what I mean. Okay. So now you got some new anatomy language for your mind to chew on a little bit. Make sure you all have this rolled towel and this mushy ball today. Okay. It's that kind of day outside, right? We need to do a little bit of that. Did everybody guess it? Look, you all had it already really close by. So, okay, good. All right. So, oh wait, before one more thing, I just want you to see this beautiful bone that you have, since I'm talking about the cranium. This is your sphenoid bone, which is right here in your head, like behind your eyes. Um, and isn't it beautiful? It looks
Yeah.
like a little butterfly or a little moth, and it sits in the very center of your skull. So it's a very cool bone. So I just want you to see that. Okay. All right. So if you have glasses on, take them off for a moment. Just set them aside safely so that when we begin, you can just deeply relax your face. And so take time, especially if you're staring at a computer screen for long stretches of time. Take time to take off your glasses, to close your eyes, to have a moment to rest your face. So let's begin by cupping your hands and just letting your head fall into your hands for a moment. So, not a lot of pressure, don't push on your eyes, but just have a sense that just like you would kind of lean into somebody for a hug or relax and yield into the ground, let's just have a teeny bit of yielding of this part of our face. So let your hands hold you so that you can drop all of the bones that are touching your hands and let everything relax for a moment. Soften through your eyes as best as you can. And feel maybe the pressure of the heels of your hands on your cheeks, and just let the weight of that soften. Whatever has challenged your vision today, maybe you've been in front of a screen, just let everything soften. And then release and come back to a neutral posture. And keep your eyes closed even as I direct this. So if you do spend a lot of time on a screen, I know I've mentioned this before, but try the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, look 20 feet into the distance for 20 seconds. And this will reduce a lot of that high face strain of staring at a computer screen. So 20-20-20, every 20 minutes, stare 20 feet into the distance for 20 seconds. All right, so now just rest. Come into the body, come into the sense of grounding in your pelvis, feeling the fullness of your torso, maybe a little spaciousness in your spine. Allow your shoulders to drop back and down. And take your ears back just ever so slightly. Notice if you're a head tilter forwarder, if you tend to lean your head forward, draw it back so you can feel, not look and see, but feel the alignment of ears over shoulders, shoulders over pelvis. And notice if this is unusual, if you feel like you're tipping backwards a little bit, if your proprioception has gotten used to a hunched forward posture. And from this place, take a wide open breath and open your heart. Imagine that you can spread, instead of feeling like you have wings on the back, feel the opening of your heart, spreading the front wings, getting your shoulders to broaden, your chest to broaden. Feel the plumb line of your crown over your tail. Fill your breath well. Ready, bring your hands together at your heart. Let's just enjoy a moment to uh, offer an intention to really settle into the question of what is it that you need today? How can your practice support this? Can you set an intention? Let's release the hands. Let's just do a little bit of some shoulder rolling here. So just a few of passes of rolling the shoulders backwards and then rolling the shoulders forwards. And then one shoulder back at a time. Make sure you're breathing. One shoulder forward at a time. And then relax a shrug up. Let it down one more time. Then touch your teeth gently and lift your chin up toward the sky, stretching the front of your throat. Maybe tipping a little to the left or tipping a little to the right. And then dropping your chin down toward your chest and stretching through the back of your neck. And then coming back to neutral, one ear up and stretch the fingers of that hand down, down, down toward the ground, reaching. And come back up, other direction, stretch those fingers down as you lift the ear. And come back to center, turn your head to one side, shoulders back. And then turn your head to the other side. And then a big breath in, reach the arms all the way up. And then exhale and release them down. Okay, a seated cat-cow, so rounding the spine a little bit, arching the back, just getting the fullness of your body to partake in this. And pause in neutral and just notice if that plumb line of crown over tail, wings open, things are a little bit easier. Take a full deep breath. Let's find our way onto our back and stretch out and reach your body. Have your little props handy. And so as you lengthen through your body, enjoy. And practice is going to be nice and gentle today. So let's just enjoy kind of recognizing that sometimes self-care means really gentle self-care, right? Sometimes it means more vigorous, sometimes it means more gentle. All right, so we're stretching the right and stretching the left and coming into that awakening of the sides, the shoulders, the hips, anything you can find. And then draw your knees into your chest and give yourself a little hug, a little rocking maybe. Remember, if your nervous system needs some tending, if you need to kind of down regulate into some ease, rocking is a great way to get there. All right, hang on to your knees and let's roll a few times, feeling into your sacrum. Go the other direction. All right, and then third direction, knees coming apart, drawing your knees in and just enjoying that sense of ease and opening. All right, right knee into your chest and let's roll around in your ankles and wiggle around in your toes and feel a deep sense of rest in your skull. Even here, when you get the cue of rest your head down, did something happen? You notice that, so much of our efforting has to do with trying to lead with our head. All right, and then change sides, left knee into your chest, right leg long. Say hi to your ankles and your feet. And isn't it nice to sense the parts of your body? So just when you come home to yourself, when you feel parts of your body, have a little moment of gratitude. And then stretch your limbs wide on the ground, reaching out into your fingers and your toes, maybe rolling your wrists around or wiggling your fingers. Just open your body up. And then as you exhale, close your body up, head comes up, knees in. You can always keep your head down too. One more time, expand open, a big giant star on the ground. Exhale, drawing the knees in. And putting your head down onto the ground and the arms out to the side. Feet on the ground, windshield wipering your knees, just beginning some twisting. How's the breath? Can you melt the head again?
then let's move the hips over to the right, knees up, drop them down to the left, and just feel into that opening across your chest. Turn your head, breathe deeply. And come back up. Shift your hips over to the other side, knees come up, drop them to the side, open your chest. Breathe your way into the twist. Just enjoy your body twisting. Come back. Spread open your limbs one more time. A giant star, wiggling your toes, wiggling your fingers. Exhale, drawing your knees in. And then release your head down. Roll over onto your side. Come up onto your hands and your knees. We're gonna come back and do some of that work with our spine. But first, let's just finish warming up everywhere here. So start to feel your way into some cat-cow. So there's a beautiful arch in the spine. There's a beautiful rounding. Take notice of what your shoulder blades are doing, what your pelvis is doing, your rib cage, your sternum, your head, all the other bones besides your spine that interrelate with your spine. Notice their movement. How's your spine ripples? How's your breathing? All right, any kind of movement that you want to do in your body. So feel free to wiggle around, move any way you want. Again, isn't it a joy to feel your body move and to open? All right, stretch back towards child's pose. Settle your hips back toward the heels and enjoy what it feels like to have a child's pose. And of course, your arms can be wherever you want them to be. They can be up high overhead or down at your sides. Feel the dropping of your hips toward your heels, a deep compression in the hips and the knees. If your arms are not overhead, bring them overhead so that we can find that side body stretch, reaching over to one side first so you get that length through your lats, melt the skull. So here we are in a pose where our head is facing the floor. So see if you can begin to relax the muscles of the face. Coming back to center, walk the hands over to the other side and just enjoy. Breathing deeply. Yeah. Come back up onto all fours. Let's find our twist. Reaching one arm up, exhale, and slide that shoulder down and melt the skull. Gaze downward, let the eyes soften toward the floor. Release the base of the skull and rest the ears. Inhale, reach that arm back up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground and change sides. Arm lifting up. Exhale, slide that arm under. All right, so finding that full twist, open up through the back ribs, breathing deeply. And then reach that arm all the way up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground and find your way up to a dog pose. Now, as you come into a dog pose, first just take some time pedaling your feet, feeling your way into the sensing of this pose. There's so much that happens in this posture. There's the inversion, there's the deep line, back line of the body opening. There's a sense of big capacity to ground because we have so much contact with the ground. So feel all these elements. And as you start to maybe relax away from the movement and move into the stillness, let's see if we can let those avenues of expression start to soften. Bobble your head a little bit, just so you know that you're starting to relax. And then release that visceral cranium away from your neurocraniums, face bones falling away from the skull bones. Ah, make some noise if you want to. Feel your cheekbones relax. Relax your eye sockets. Soften your jaw, your teeth, and your palates. And come forward into a plank and hold yourself here and feel that sturdy body. Big breath here. Can you still relax your face? Even though we're starting to find some vigor in the body, can you still feel that you're soft in places that don't need to be hard? All right, put your knees down, find the ground. A couple of shoulder rolls again. Notice those shoulder blades. Inhale for a cobra pose, a big open chest. Exhale and release back down. One more time. A big open chest. And then melting back down. Come up onto all fours. Move your spine around, wiggle and sway. Move your head. Lift up to a dog pose again when you're ready. Feeling maybe a little bit of movement. Maybe you come a little quicker into stillness. Yield. And when you yield, push off. Yield and then push and lengthen. Feel that reach in the body. Melt your face again. And walk your feet forward. Come to Uttanasana, folding deeply here. Let the back body open up. Release the skull. Try not to pick your head up, but let it fall. Inhale for a halfway lift. Gathering some length in the spine. You can use blocks if you'd like. Feeling the femur bones draw back. And exhale and melt and release again. Full line in the back body. Opening up. Relax the skull. One more time. The halfway lift. Stretch open through the feet. Lift the sit bones. Exhale. Relaxing back down. Push off your feet. Now we were down for a little while, so if you need a little help with that equalizing of your blood pressure, you can pause and halfway lift for a moment before coming up, or you can squeeze to the midline to just help you regulate if you get dizzy from down to up. All right, so once you're comfortable, reach and expand, open across your heart, spread open your wings, feel the shoulder blades find each other on the back. Inhale, arms back up. And press your arms straight out to the sides. All right, so fingers wide and lifting. Let's do some circles with the shoulders. Just feel that opening across the nerves in your body, arms. Okay, other direction with your arms, with your circles of your arms. And then reaching them up again. Tip back a little bit, and then a big swan dive forward and fold. Relax your neck. Soften your skull and let it bob a little bit. Imagine all the surrender in your skull bones. Inhale for a halfway lift. Getting longer again. Exhale, melt, bend your knees. Step your left foot back, right foot's in front, finding a lunge. Enjoy this pose, opening up through your heart, feeling those hip flexors expand, and start to move with your breath. As you exhale, slow it down, bow your head, soften the face. Inhale, bend your knee and lift your heart. Try to go slow with the breath so there's no rush. We're just in our bodies, we're feeling ourselves. Take the luxury of time. There's no accomplishment needed here. There's nothing that has to be done. It's only allowing ourselves the time and space to feel present moment awareness.
When you're ready, place your back knee down onto the ground. So you have a wide, broad, open hip flexor here. Okay. And let's come on up, reaching the arms, and you can always come off your knee if you prefer a crescent lunge. Extend and lengthen. And we'll maybe take one hand, our right hand on the block, or our right elbow on our knee, whichever feels better, and lengthen up and over through that side. Breathe well. Relax the base of the skull. And then cross that forearm to your knee to lift into a twist. Feeling that length across the hip flexor of that back leg. And coming back to a neutral place. Hands coming down onto the ground. Lift your back knee up off the floor and walk your back foot forward. Hold deeply in Uttanasana. Relax your head. Let it bob, let it bobble. Relax your jaw, your tongue, your eyes. Inhale for a halfway lift. And then melt again. Stepping your other foot back. Left foot comes in front, right foot behind. Find your knee up off the ground. We'll start with the movement. Spread across your heart, shoulders away from the ears. And let's start to move. So we're straightening the front knee, bow the head, and then bend the front knee and lift the heart. Follow your breath. I like to exhale as I bow my head and straighten my leg. And I like to inhale as I lift my heart and head. But you might feel differently. So follow the instincts of your body. Remember to move slowly so that you have a deep quality of sensing your body breathing. Is there a place where you can melt and relax a little bit more? I will come to a lunge and place the back knee down. You can always keep it up if that's better for your body. Find that lunge, feel the hip flexors open up here. Press into your foot on the ground so that we're having a lot of support, we're not falling. And then when you're ready, arms coming up, press your foot into the ground deeply, hug the midline. And then we'll find a side bend here. Maybe the hand comes on a block, left hand on a block, maybe the left arm on your knee. Find what feels good. Stretch open and lengthen through that side. Keep pressing your foot into the ground. And then we'll twist. So forearm can come to the knee or any variation that feels right for your body. And just feeling that beautiful twist. Drop the shoulders, collarbones broaden. We're still seeking the midline with our legs. Breathe well, all the way into the bottom rib cage. And then come back to a neutral place. Okay. We'll bring our hands down onto the ground. Lift all the way back to a dog pose. And maybe take your legs nice and wide. Toes turn in a little bit so you have this feeling of space through your abdomen and your pelvis. Relax your neck. Let your face fall away from your skull bones again. Bring our feet back to neutral. Come forward into a plank. Shoulders away from the ears. And let's come onto our knees for a moment. We don't usually do this at this point, but we are going to do it today. Pigeon pose. So actually let's start sitting on our pelvis for just a minute. Okay. So we'll just kind of peek at our hips before we go into that deep of a pose. So pull your feet away from you so that you form like a square or a diamond between your legs. Notice if, one knee is higher than the other, how are your hips today? Feel the lift of your spine. Let's take our hands behind us first. Open up across your shoulders. feel an opening across your whole front body. And then when you're ready, we'll come forward with a long spine, elbows to your knees or hands to your knees if your elbows don't reach your knees. Feel the length of your spine. Instead of collapsing and falling downward, reach into length and then relax your face. Soften your skull. Imagine that first pose we did where we put our hands, our face in our hands. Imagine that you have that same capacity to melt through your skull. Elbows on your knees, give them a good press. How's the breath? How's the length of your spine? Maybe you want to pull open your feet a little deeper, bring your big toes away from each other. And then come on up. Cross your legs crisscross. Let's take our right arm up in the air, left hand behind you, twist to the side. Drop the shoulders. Open across your heart, breathing deeply. Come back to center, change sides, arm up, bring it to the outside of the knee, and twist. All right, and come back to a neutral place. Grab your props. So reverse pigeon pose is always available if pigeon pose is not a good posture for you. If you need blocks, blankets, take them. Okay, so our right leg's gonna be in front in pigeon pose, left leg behind. You can have your heel close to your pubic bone, or you can have it pulled a little further away and find what's right for you. Start with your hands on blocks so that you have this extension. And of course, if you're in reverse pigeon pose, you're doing the same action in your hip, but you're just resting your back and head into the ground. When you are ready, come forward. And this is important. Rest on a block. So let's find a block to, whatever height you need it to be on. It could be multiple blocks, but rest your head on a block. Let your forehead, which is called your frontal bone, let your forehead rest on the block and see if you can get the feeling that your face can relax. Your eyes, the sockets of your eyes, the muscles of your eyes. Get that feeling that you could drool. That's how relaxed your mouth feels. See if you can relax your cheeks. Squaring the hips. Wide sit bones, a spacious spine. Melty, melty. Sometimes when we are feeling stressed, we need to work hard to discharge, have a lot of discharging of energy. And sometimes what we need is to just rest in deep poses. So, always we try to have a sprinkling of a little bit of everything throughout time in our yoga practice. And maybe this isn't what you felt like you needed today. And if that's the case, turn me off and go outside and go sprinting. Like whatever, always follow what your body's asking for. And come out of this pose and let's find our way to the second side. Now, by following what your body's asking for, it doesn't mean avoiding the things you don't like. Okay, so sometimes the body might be asking, but you might have to have a little influence on there and be like, let's coax and try this. All right, so it could be deeply held poses like this. Pigeon pose is a hard pose for a lot of people. But so always recognize if you have an aversion to a posture, play with that, dance within it, and see if you can explore where your aversion is coming from. So as you find the second side, hopefully you had a moment to be upright, maybe hands on ground or hands on blocks so that you have that extension and feel that deep, deep rotation in the hip joint. And then when you're ready, rest your head on a block and notice, sometimes I take my knuckles to my temples or around my ears
or in my jaw. So, if you have a spot that needs a little self massage, you can take your index finger knuckles, so kind of curl your hands and just use that knuckle to kind of rub around in different places that might feel good. How's your breathing? Again, can you let your face kind of fall away from your cranium? All the bones that protect your skull, or protect your brain rather. Can you let your face kind of fall away? Come out of there. Let's find our way onto our back. So hopefully you're feeling like we've touched into a lot of places. You need blocks and your smushy ball and your rolled towel. Okay. So let's start with the smushy ball, the Armara ball being about half full, and we're gonna put it under our sacrum. And you might need to play, and if you don't have a smushy ball, put a yoga block on its lowest height underneath your sacrum. And if you don't have a yoga block, you can use a book or a Tupperware or something fairly firm. All right. So first, just let your body rest here. We're going to do a little bit of working to kind of wake up our core, but first, just notice, and it can kind of feel like you're on a waterbed a little bit, where there's some movement, and feel free to let movement happen if your pelvis wants to sway or move around in any way. Feel free to explore that. Not holding static just yet. We will in a moment. All right, and then when you're ready, see if you can find stillness. So find the center point. And this requires a little bit of energy. Okay, your feet have to ground. You might have a little engagement of your pelvic floor muscles. So how can you hold yourself steady with 2 feet on the ground? So notice, we're gonna go deeper into this, but notice just first what it takes to hold still. And you feel a little bit of engagement of the pelvic floor, maybe the inner thighs, grounding the feet. Notice your breath. Try not to hold it. And then if your back is, needing release, see if you can feel that here. See if you can relax through your low back. Breathe into your pelvis. All right, so the first movement we're going to do is just simply opening our knees out to the sides and bringing our knees back in and trying to minimize the wobble of the ball. Notice how your 2 sides might feel very differently. You might have one hip that's like, oh yeah, I got this. This is a good movement. And another hip that's a little bit more resistive. So just notice. See if you can have symmetry in your mobility and symmetry in your stability. So if you wobble, what's happening? Which way do you go? Notice your head, your neck, your throat, your skull bones. Try not to, your shoulders. Try not to grip and hold tension where it's not needed. All right, and then knees back to neutral. Engage that transverse abdominis. So deep low core is starting to find its way. And we're going to ground through your left foot and lift your right knee up. And then slowly lower that right foot down. Feel the contact and then change sides. Right foot down, left knee up. So try to, you could whip through this and your body would do it. But I want you to go slow so you sense what is happening. what am I feeling? Where is my engagement? What is stabilizing me? How can I breathe while I'm here? Check in with your head to shoulders and make sure that's not what's holding you here. Lots of core, pelvic floor. Try to keep breathing as you switch from one side to the other. Now, this might be enough. You might be like, yeah, stabilizing myself on the ball, moving slowly. I feel a lot of engagement in all those small muscles. So I can feel this in my transverse abdominis, my hip flexors, my psoas, my back. I can feel it in my pelvic floor, a little bit in my inner thighs. There's a lot going on. All right, and then neutral again, just rest. Now you can choose to repeat that or a little bit more advancement. We can come to a tabletop with our knees over our pelvis and our feet in the air. Harder to stabilize. Make sure your neck, shoulders, arms are not what's doing it. Engage your core. All right, now we're going to tap one heel down and back up. Slow and steady. Try to minimize the wobbles as best as you can. Notice if your pelvis wants to shift and torque. See if you can keep everything neutral, and it's just the hip flexors that are creating movement. Lots is creating the stability, but the mobility is coming from your hip flexors. Every other muscle is creating the stability. How's your breath? Check in with your head, your eyes, your jaw, your tongue, your shoulders, your neck, even your hands. All right, then rest your feet down for a moment and just neutralize. We have one more thing to do. And if you're like, oh, this isn't feeling good, then you stop right here, okay? Promise we'll release the back in just a moment. So now we're going to bring the knees up again, just like we had before. And we're going to touch our inner feet, keep them touched, and open your knees and close your knees. Just like we were doing on the floor, but now our feet are in the air. We're opening up our knees and we're closing our knees. Try to minimize the wobble, not with your upper body. Nice and soft, shoulders, arms, head. Everything is stabilizing from the lower body. Relax. Breathing deeply. All right, one more thing. I mean, we could do like 10 more things, but let's just do one more thing. We're going to bring back to tabletop. And this time, knees stay together and pull your feet apart from each other and back in with your feet. Pull your feet out and bring your feet back in. Stabilize on the ball. Neck, arms, shoulders, relax. Stay in your breath. Notice if one leg has different movement than another. Lots of core. Melt your upper body. Everything's engaged in your ribs, your transverse abdominis, your core. All right, relax. And let's lift up off the block. That was your work for today. Okay, so now rest. And when you rest your pelvis down, you feel like you just took ice skates off. And the ground feels funny, right? So notice the ground. Let your pelvis relax. Feet on the floor. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Okay, windshield wiper your knees left and right. Turn your head in opposition of your knees. Breathing deeply. And then a big giant star. Fingers and toes wiggle. And the knees into your chest. Pick up your head. Relax your head down. Either keep your knees in or a happy baby pose if that's what your body's calling for. A big breath. And relax and come to your side and grab your rolled towel. Now, normally when we do this, we do it in the beginning of class and, experimenting to see what it feels like at the very end. What the reason why I'm choosing to do this at the end isn't necessarily for like the release or the mechanical nature through your spine, but the rocking. So we're gonna come into this, and then if you need a little bit of a release in your back, you can bring your knees to your chest for a little bit, and then we're gonna go right into Shavasana from this. So what I want you to sense is when we do that rocking north and south in the body, a lot of our rocking that we do is east-west in the body, so side side. But notice, regardless of which way you're rocking, the impact on your nervous system when we do this. Okay, so we're going to start with the roll towel. If you haven't done this, I'm pretty sure all of you have done this, but we're going to start with the roll towel underneath our shoulder blades, kind of high up at the spine of your scapula. And first, just practice the art of rocking. Okay, so we're just rocking to and fro, north, south, crown, tail. And then once you get the rocking in place, now we just did a lot of work to wake up our pelvis, all right, and get things stable and strong. So I'm hoping that pushing off your feet feels nice and relaxed, that you're aware of these muscles in your pelvis so you can relax them and not overwork. Okay? And then arms, the 3 different arm positions. As you're rocking, we go into flexion with our arms over our chest. And then we go into extension with our arms over our head, all the while rocking. And then back to neutral, and we turn our head and bring our arms over to one side. And then we come up and we go the other direction. And that's it. And then once you do that, then you walk down your spine to a new spot. Check in with your hip flexors. Make sure the rocking is coming from this really happy, soft place. And then repeat, the flexion of your arms, the extension, and then the rotation. And you might find some spots where you're like, oh yeah, that's just what I need. And feel free to hang out. Just, there's no, we're just here, right? We're just taking care of ourselves. So what a luxury to just have time to just play in your body, to be aware, to breathe, to care for self. To me, playing on the floor with yoga props is such a joy of not having an agenda and not having a time constraint, or I must do this, or I have to accomplish that. We get out of the doing and into the being. So give yourself time. One of the things I love about having my yoga props just right there in my living room available to me at all times is that when I've got a few minutes, sometimes I'll just grab a yoga prop and just do a little self-care like this. So self-massage, rocking, stretching, breathing, all these softer aspects of our yoga practice are very nurturing. So they don't have to be an hour straight of yoga. You can do 5 minutes of something when you have a little bit of time. So keep things handy in your sight so that you're like, ooh, I know how to do some breathing exercises on that rolled ball. I think I'll just spend 5 minutes doing that right now. And if you kind of do that throughout your day, you'll sneak in a lot more self-care than if everything's tucked away and you only come at it for when you have an hour. And so don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. How's your breath? Doesn't matter how fast or slow you're going in this. Find all your sweet spots. Keep checking in with making sure that your rocking is coming from a nice soft place in your pelvis and your hip flexors. If you struggle with this, sometimes putting your feet up against the edge of a wall instead of flat on the ground, or against a bolster that's against a wall, sometimes that can ease up the tension in your hip flexors or pelvis. Breathe deeply. This is such a good pose to nourish all the little tiny muscles and tendons and ligaments along your spine. And the most important thing you can do is relax and breathe. As you go down your spine, when you get to your low back, and don't worry if you're like still at your neck, there's no rush. I feel like I'm kind of moving quickly today, but sometimes I do this much slower. Sometimes I do it much faster. So whatever your natural pace is today, when you get down to the lower back, you're gonna feel like, oh, I don't feel like anything anymore because of the natural curves. And if that happens to you, when you put that rolled towel in your low back, bring your knees to your chest and just rock on it. And sometimes I like to experiment with rocking east west, a little side to side to kind of get into that QL a little bit. Sometimes just rocking on the vertebrae north south can feel really nice. Remember, we're hydrating and massaging and liquefying a lot of those places that tend to get stuck. Your low back might have a couple of passes in it of different spots with holding your knees. A lot of times when stress arises in our lives, one of the unconscious things that we do is we hold our breath. And when we travel down the spine like this with the arm movements and the rocking, there's a lot of release that happens in all the aperture of breathing, the diaphragm, but also the lungs themselves. So enjoy all the hidden little treasures that is in this very simple moving posture. When you get down to the sacrum, you can unreally, don't hold your knees anymore. Put your feet back on the ground. And even though it may seem that you don't need the arm positions anymore, they really do change subtly what you're doing in your pelvis. So keep that flexion, extension, and rotation. And then when you get all the way down to your tailbone, you might also notice that you lose it. And at that point, it's nice to straighten your legs, heels on the ground, and we push off our heels by flexing and pointing our feet and getting that little bit of rocking all the way to the bottom of our tail. Now, there's no rush. You can keep doing this for like 20 more minutes if you'd like to. But in order to kind of conserve the boundary of our class time, I'm going to pause what I'm doing now and enter into Shavasana. So, again, all the things you know that help your nervous system stay warm. Try not to have bright lights in your face. Use props to support any part of your body that needs care. If when you stop your rocking, you feel like, uh-oh, some part of my body needs a little release, then do that. Knees to chest or a twist or a happy baby pose or whatever. And then when you're ready to rest in Shavasana, have the memory of the rocking alive within you. Let your body melt. Your face nice and relaxed. Softening your shoulder blades. Maybe bring them down the back a little bit. Feel the weight of your head. And now we can melt the back side of our head. Can you melt the base of your occiput? Can you melt inside your ears? And feel all the muscles of your jaw and face relax. The skull bones around your skull softening. And bring yourself into the fullness of breath. And consciously melt your body, relax. breathing. And feel any kind of movement that helps bring you back to the room, to your body, to this moment. Taking your time as you come onto your side. Pause there for a moment to sense the gathering of your practice. It's kind of nurturing of self, have that moment of just recognizing all the care. And then as you're ready, come to a comfortable seat. Pause for a moment and notice the state of affairs. How is your nervous system? How is your breath? How is your ability to relax? How's your sense of presence? How's your posture? And notice all the subtle little changes in your mind and body. Let's bring our hands to our heart and offer the gifts of our practice. Send your care, your energy, your love outward. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.